Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So today, I want to just go over that worksheet that I gave y'all, what was that, 2 days ago, Wednesday. I've gotten lots of people's answers back, and for the most part, they look pretty good. Um, didn't really see anything that I was too concerned about. Of course, like I said, I did put the answers at the end of that worksheet so that you could check your answers and make sure that you actually got to the correct answer. That way you could check your work as well in case you didn't get the correct answer and see if you went wrong somewhere on that work. Again, this assignment that I gave you, I really just wanted to see, how well did you absorb what we went over with order of operations. Now, I did also include two questions about types of numbers. It's just kind of why I wanted you to review that. Okay. So again, let's go ahead and go over this one. The first question asked us to identify the following number, choose all that apply, and it gave us -8. So the possible choices were natural number, whole number, integer, rational number, irrational number, real number, or undefined. Okay, so we have 8, just a plain old 8. There's no decimal, there's no fraction expressed, but remember we can express it as a fraction by putting it over 1. It is a negative number, so let's see. Is it going to be a natural number? No, it's not a natural number because it's negative. Remember that natural numbers are things that we count with: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. Is it a whole number? Yes. Like I said, there's no decimals on the end. There's no divisor that's expressed here. So it is a whole number. Is it an integer? Yes. Integers are just kind of another way of saying a whole number. Rational number? Yeah. A rational number can be expressed as a fraction. Again, this one isn't being expressed by a fraction, but we can make it a fraction by putting it over 1. Is it an irrational number? No. If it's rational, then it can't be irrational. Remember that an irrational number is a number that cannot be expressed as a fraction. That'd be something like square root of 2 or pi or phi, things like that. How about a real number? Absolutely, it's a real number. Real numbers are the things that we have concepts for. So what about undefined? Well, it can't be undefined. We know what it is. It's a value of 8 in the negative direction. So we know the definition of that. Okay, so once again, it is a whole number, an integer, a rational number, and a real number. Okay, number 2, same thing except it gave us 1/6. Okay, so it's not natural because we don't count with fractions. It's not whole because it's a fraction. It's a piece of a number, not an entire value. It is not an integer. It is a rational number, though, because again, remember that rational means that we can express it as a fraction, and this is already a fraction. It's 1/6. Obviously not irrational, because we just said it's rational, and it is a real number because we have the definition for it, which means also that it is undefined. Okay, so now let's get into the actual problems that we were looking at with our work. So number 3 says, evaluate the following expression, expressing your answer in fraction form if needed. Be sure to use the correct order of operations. And that's the real sticker I was looking for, is you need to use that order of operations to get the correct answer here. So the problem that it gave us is, okay, there we go. 2 plus 5 times 4 divided by 3 plus, and then in parentheses, negative 4 cubed, or to the third power. And I'll zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see that. Just waiting for the YouTube thing to catch up. There we go. All right. So again, we have what's called an expression here. An expression is where we have some numbers, some values, that are being put together with some operations. Now, this is not an equation because there's no equal signs. Remember that an equation is where we have two expressions that are being compared to each other with that equal sign. That equal sign tells us that those two expressions would be equal, they'd be the same. But this is just an expression because there's nothing to compare it to. There's no equal signs. Okay, so if we want to simplify this thing or reduce it down to its simplest form, what we need to do is we need to go through our order of operations and complete everything that it's telling us that we can do. So the first step in our order of operations is parentheses or grouping symbols. So let's check and see. Well, we do have parentheses here, but is there anything that we can do inside of them? No. So why are there parentheses here? Well, the reason we have parentheses here is not necessarily because there's something inside that we need to do, but because it is making sure that we include this negative when we do other math around this thing, for instance, this power. Okay, so parentheses or grouping symbols, we don't need to do anything there. Next, we have exponents. So again, we look through, do we have any exponents? Yeah, we do. We have third power on this negative 4. And remember, like I just said, because there's parentheses around the negative and the 4, both the negative and the 4 are being cubed. So this is going to be negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4, which will give us negative 64. Okay, so we got a new value. We now need to rewrite our expression using that, using that new value. Okay, so negative 64, I can get rid of that plus since this negative is overriding it, or I could keep it in parentheses and keep that plus. It's really up to you how you want to look at that. The way I'm looking at this is that this is a plus negative. Well, if I'm adding negative, so adding debt, really that just means that I'm subtracting that thing. But I'm going to keep it this way for now, just so that it's easier to follow along. Okay? And that's something I should mention. Your work might not look exactly like mine. It might not look, step for step, word for word like mine. And that's something you'll find in math, that there's more than one way to do things. However, it should look very similar. All right, so we've done our exponent, and I don't see any more exponents, so we can move on to the next step in our order of operations, and that's multiply and divide. Okay, so again, there's two ways of looking at this step. First, I see multiply and divide right here. So which one do we do first? Okay, well, you could look at this as going from left to right, which is how I do it. Or you could see this as 5 times 4 is going to be divided by 3. The entire 5 times 4 is going to be divided by 3. Now I'm going to do it as I'm going left to right with this. So I'm going to see, oh, I have multiply first if I read from left to right. So I'm going to multiply that. 5 times 4 is 20. And so now I'm going to rewrite my expression again because I've gotten a new value. Okay. So we did a multiply, but we're not done with that step. We still have some divide that we can do. Remember that you can do multiply and divide in the same step. So now we need to divide 20 by 3. Well, if we put that into a calculator, actually, what do we get if we put that into a calculator? 20 divided by 3, we get 6.6666666666666 going on forever and ever and ever, which means you'd have to round that. And I do not want you to round answers before you get to the final solution, before you get to that final number. Okay? So what we're going to do here instead is write this as just a fraction. Division and fractions are the same thing. Fractions just represent division. Okay, so again, we have a new value. So we are going to write down our new expression. Okay. So again, there's more than one way that you can do this next step. We need to add these things together. Okay, so we've done our parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide. Now we come to add and subtract. We need to add all these together. However, one of these things is a fraction. And in order to add these values to this fraction, we need to have common denominators. We need to have the same number dividing all of these. So if this one is over 3, this has to be over 3, this has to be over 3. So we could convert these so they're over 3. There is another way that I saw yesterday somebody do, where we just combine 2 and negative 64 before we get everything over 3. And that gives us one value that we have to get over 3 instead of 2 of them. And I actually like that better, so I'm going to do that here. So 2 plus negative 64 is going to give us negative 62. So add this 2 to this negative 64 here. We get negative 62. And now, let's see, that's going to give us what? That'd be 186 over 3. Okay. And now that both of these are over the same denominator, we can go ahead and subtract them. So 20 minus that 186 is negative 166. And it's, of course, still over 3. And that's as far as we can go. We've done our parentheses, we've done our exponents, we've done multiply and divide, we've done add and subtract. We've run out of operations. There's nothing else to do, except maybe we could simplify this, but I don't see anything in common between 166 and 3. So there's nothing to simplify that fraction. This would be our final answer. Okay, so if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, and I'll get to them as soon as I see them. Oh, I just realized that's not on there. There we go. Okay, but I'm going to move on to the next one. So next one, it's pretty similar. Same idea. We want to evaluate the following expression, expressing your answer in a fraction if needed, and be sure to use the correct order of operations. Okay. So this one gives us 8 plus 6 times 6 divided by 7 plus negative 8 to the third. So basically the exact same structure as the previous one, just with new numbers. Okay, so once again we need to use our order of operations, which starts with parentheses. Well, can we do anything inside those parentheses? Not really. Again, these parentheses are just telling us that we're including this negative when we do anything else to this value. Okay, so we move on to exponents. So negative 8 to the third power, that's going to give us negative 512. Okay, and now that we have a new value, we need to rewrite our expression. Always do that, which I was seeing on our assignment, which was good, but I just want us to remember we should always rewrite once we get a new value. Okay, so parentheses are done, exponents are done, now we can multiply and divide. So I see 6 times 6, that's going to give us 36. And we need to rewrite the rest of this again. All right. And we're still in the multiply divide step, so we need to do that divide now, which means we have 36 divided by 7. Can we actually divide that and get an integer? No. So we're going to have to go for 36 over 7. Okay. Now we have this fraction here and we need to start adding things together. Well, we need that common denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and add these two things together before I get that common denominator, so I only have one thing that I have to change over. So 8 plus negative 512, or you could think about that as 8 minus 512. That's going to give us negative 504. So 36 over 7 minus 504. And now we need to convert that into something over 7. So we're going to need to multiply this by 7 over 7. Let's see, 504 times 7 is negative 3,528. Don't worry, I'll give you calculators on things like this. So 36 over 7 minus 3,528 over 7. And that will give us a final answer. Oh, whoops, yeah. That will give us a final answer of negative 3,492 over 7. Again, it'd be nice if we could simplify this thing, but 3,492 and 7 do not have common factors, which we'll get into more about what factors mean later. But again, this is the final answer for this one. Okay, next one. Number 5. Same thing again. We have now negative 2 plus 7 times 1 divided by 4 plus negative 2 to the third. All right, so same thing. Parentheses first, can't do anything inside of them. Next is exponents, so negative 2 to the third is negative 8. Rewrite our expression. Okay. Now we can do multiply and divide. 7 times 1 is 7. That's easy. Okay. Then we need to divide 7 and 4. That doesn't give us an integer, so we're going to just keep it as a fraction. All right. Now we need to combine these two together to get one value. So negative 2 and negative 8. That's going to make negative 10. So now we have 7 over 4 plus, whoops, not plus, 7 over 4 minus 10. We need to get a common denominator. Okay, so this is over 4. We need to make that over 4. Multiply it by 4 over 4. So 10 times 4 is 40. So we now have 7 over 4 minus 40 over 4. And 7 minus 40 is going to give us negative 33 over 4. Okay. So all three of these, again, are pretty similar. They have the same basic structure, but different numbers in them. Repetition is key in mathematics, though. Getting down with a certain way of doing things, just getting that kind of installed in your head. That's how you learn how to do this kind of stuff. All right, but we have two more, and they are not like these. Okay. So, number 6. Evaluate the following expression, expressing your answer in a fraction if need be. Be sure to use the correct order of operations. However, this one is different in that we now have something like 1 minus 2 times 7 minus 3 all over negative 9 times negative 2 minus 7 divided by 8 plus 9, and then close off those parentheses. So we have a rather large fraction here. Okay, so how do we tackle this? The way I want you to think about these, when you see fractions like this, where you have operations in top and bottom, is think about the top one as its own expression, and then think about the bottom one as its own expression. Do them separately. And then once you get the value for this one and the value for this one, you can put them back into a fraction. Okay? So let's tackle the top first. Again, order of operations. Always going to be order of operations when we're trying to simplify something. So I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents. I do see multiply though. So negative 2 times 7 is going to give us negative 14. So we now have 1 minus 14 minus 3. Okay, so I don't see any divide, but I do see some add and subtract. So 1 minus 14 minus 3, that should give us negative 16. Okay, so we've got the top part done. Now we need to get that bottom part. And same thing, order of operations. Nothing crazy happens just because this is a fraction. So we do order of operations. We have parentheses here. Now something to do when you go inside of parentheses is to check and make sure you don't have another set of parentheses like we do here. In other words, you want to restart your order of operations once you go inside those parentheses. So ask yourself again, once we're in here, do we have more parentheses? Yeah. And we want to do what's in the innermost parentheses first. So that's 8 plus 9. And that'll give us 17. So negative 9 times negative 2 minus 7 divided by 17. Okay? So, got those parentheses done, but we're still inside these parentheses. And again, we need to restart our order of operations. So do we have any more parentheses? No. Do we have any exponents? No. Do we have multiply or divide? Yeah, we have divide. So we're going to go ahead and divide negative 7 by 17. Again, doesn't give us an integer, so we're just going to make that into a fraction. So negative 9 times negative 2, then minus 7 over 17. All right. I'll move this up a little bit. So now we've got the problem of we need these to be common denominators. Okay. So negative 2, to get that over 17, we multiply it by 17 over 17. And that's going to give us 34 over 17. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now we can go ahead and combine those. So 34 and 7, they're both negative, so they're going to combine to give us a bigger number. It's going to be negative 41. So negative 9 times 40, negative 41 over 17. Okay, and now last thing, we're done with the parentheses here, so we can move outside of them. The only other thing we have besides those parentheses, though, is this negative 9 times this. Okay, so 9 times 41. Let's see, just checking my math here real quick. 9 times 41. $369. Yeah, okay, so I got that right. So 369. And both of these are negatives, so when we multiply them, we get a positive 369 over 17. And now we can put this back with the other one. So combine this with this, we get negative 16 over 369 over 17. Now, we're still not done, because there's still stuff that we can do. Yeah, this is a fraction, but remember that fractions represent division. So this is another divide sign here. We have two divide signs here. So what do we do with this to keep going? Let's move down here. I'm going to rewrite this. Negative 16 over 369 over 17. Now if we write this a different way, remember that we know that this is one value and this is one value, and there's divide between them. So what if we wrote it as negative 16 divided by 369 over 17? Okay, well, if we divide by fractions, there's a special thing that we do, and that is the keep, change, flip thing you may have heard of, also known as multiply by the reciprocal of the divisor. So what that means is we're going to take this and change it. First of all, so that 16 is over 1, so that it's also a fraction. And then we're going to change this so that it's multiply and flip this so that it's reciprocal. Okay, so now we multiply the tops and the bottoms. So negative 16 times 17 is going to give us negative 272. And then 1 times 369 is 369. And there's our answer. So that one is a little bit more involved. I'd say mostly because it's kind of like we're dealing with two expressions, like I said in the beginning. treat these as two separate expressions, find their values, and then we can put them back together. But once we put them back together, we kind of have a third expression, don't we? So, involved, but as long as you follow those rules for our order of operations, you should be fine. And again, like I said before, if you have any questions, just leave them in the live chat there on the side. All right, one more. Okay, so this one we have -6 minus 3 times 2 minus 5 then over -8 times -3 minus 2 divided by -7 plus 8. So again, very similar structure. And like before, we just need to use our order of operations. So let's tackle the top first. Let's see, I don't see any I don't see any parentheses, I don't see any exponents. I do see multiply, so let's go ahead and do that. -3 times 2, that's going to give us -6. Okay, so we have -6 minus 6 minus 5. And then if we combine all those together, we should get -17. Okay, so there's the top part done. Now for the bottom part, got parentheses. Oops, forgot a parenthesis there. We've got parentheses, so we go inside of them, restart our order of operations. Do we have any more parentheses? Yes. So go into them, restart. Do we have any parentheses? No. Exponents? No. Multiply? No. Add, subtract? Yes. We have -7 plus 8. So if we combine those two together, we get 1. So we now have -8 times -3 minus 2 divided by 1. Well, that's going to be helpful. Let's see. Next thing we can do is still in the parentheses. We just did our other set of parentheses. We don't have anything like other parentheses or exponents, so we can go straight to divide. -2 divided by 1 is -2. Okay, that's helpful. Then we have, let's see, -3 and -2, combine those two together, we get -5. So -8 times -5, and that's going to give us -40. I'm sorry, +40. Negative times negative is positive. Okay, so we've got the top part done, we've got the bottom part done. Now we can put them together. -17 over 40. That's it. Can't simplify that any further. Okay, So once again, order of operations is going to be very important for us as we go through the semester because we're going to be dealing with quite a few expressions that we need to simplify. In fact, that's going to be basically all we're going to do the whole semester. We're going to be simplifying a lot of expressions and then also using them in the equations. But it's always good to have your expressions simplified before you start solving things. So, getting this skill down now is absolutely important for our success later. So if you feel like you need extra help with this order of operations stuff, let me know now. I would be more than happy to help you. After all, that's my job. That's what they pay me for. But also, I just, like teaching. So if you think that you need a little bit more help with this, you're not quite getting it, something like that, please let me know. Okay? But I think that will do for today. So I hope y'all have a good weekend. Let's see. Monday is the 25th, correct? Yes. So Monday is the 25th. Remember that face-to-face classes are going to be starting that day. So if you're in the face-to-face class, remember to come to my classroom. That is 203 in Ferguson Hall. So come to my classroom Monday if you're in the face-to-face class. Of course, if you're in the distance learning class, then just stay home. All right, so I will see you for real on Monday, and I hope you have a great weekend.